So when I'm making racket recommendations for all court players, I'm generally looking for three big things. Number one, excellent maneuverability, because you need to be able to choose whatever shot you want at any given moment. Number two, easy spin modulation, meaning you can hit spin, or you can hit flat, or you can hit slice. And number three, a predictable string bed, because you need to be able to trust your racket to go after your shot. So once you've got these three things, you've got some flexibility to dial in your racket's feel, power level, and stability level. Generally, I find that all court players can prioritize maneuverability over pure torsional stability as long as the racket provides enough lateral stability to give you confidence at net, aka the racket doesn't shake out of your hand on volleys. Now, I prioritize maneuverability here because shot selection is so important to the all court player. They need to play the right shot for their game at any given moment. So today's list is going to go in order from most powerful to least powerful, and I'll give you a couple of different options in each segment to represent a few different types of hitting feels, from more responsive and crisp rackets to more muted and plush frames. So starting off with the most powerful frames, we've got the thick beamed 100 square inch clats. Now, first up, it's the Yonex E-Zone 100. I think this is one of the most well-rounded frames of the year, offering easy access to spin without sacrificing too much control on flat shots. It's definitely no 1820 blade, but the string bed is consistent enough once you get used to the plush, relatively muted feel. The plushness means that comfort really shouldn't be an issue for the majority of players. I found tons of comfort with this frame even when choosing very stiff polyester strings. There's also huge stability here, which is tremendously confidence inspiring at net, and just enough maneuverability for you to be creative with your shot making. Now, the main potential downsides with the E-Zone 100 are twofold. Number one, it's not always the most maneuverable racket. It's good enough, I think, for this use case, but if you're someone who really loves a whippy frame, it's probably not going to be this one. And number two is feel, which can be a bit muted and disconnected. Thankfully, there is one racket on the market which solves both of those problems, and that's the brand new Slinko Blackout V2. The V2 has a pretty neutral feel. It's not too dampened, but it's also not too raw, thanks to a new layup of graphite and foam filling for extra solidity. The Blackout offers better control on flat shots compared to the E-Zone 100 while delivering similar spin. The other bonus with this Blackout is it's more head light than the E-Zone 100, delivering this 315mm balance point, which we're going to see basically throughout the rest of today's video. For my personal taste, the Blackout is better than the E-Zone 98 on transition games, so playing kind of crafty slices or being a little bit more precise with your targeting. That's, I think, where this racket exceeds, whereas the E-Zone 100 plays defense a little bit better, so you'll have to look kind of within yourself to see what kind of all-court player you really are. The tricky thing with the Blackout, though, is you really need to step in and be confident with your shot making. This racket isn't going to bail you out if you aren't 100% on any given shot, whereas in comparison, the E-Zone 100 can kind of go on autopilot and save you in tricky situations. So moving on to 98 square inch rackets, because in general, I think 98s are going to be the better choice for an all-court player when compared to the medium 100s, so the Speed MP or Percept 100, for example. Starting out in this category, we're going to go for the most obvious choice, and that's the Babolat Pure Aero 98. Whippy 315mm balance point, check. Predictable 16x20 string pattern, check. Elite versatility in the transition game, check once again. Massive stability for great confidence on blocking shots like returns and volleys, also check. There's a reason that this racket has become so popular among elite players. It just rewards the aggressive modern game like nothing else. Alcaraz, well, duh. Bublik Reborn, of course. And even a confident Stefanos Tsitsipas. Shockingly, even he had success with his all-court game using the Pure Aero 98. At this point, I don't think you need me to elaborate more on the playability of this frame. I've talked about it so much, but I will say there is one issue with this frame, and that's going to be comfort. For some players, the launch angle can be a little bit too high, or you might have some issues flattening out the ball with this frame. I personally don't have that problem because I'm able to address those issues by adjusting my string tension and string type, so I can go for something a little bit stiffer, more control oriented. But if you're more sensitive to strings and comfort, you need something a little more inherently comfortable than this Pure Aero 98. I'd be looking at the Diadem. I wish this had strings in it so I could bounce it, but the Diadem Axis 98. Spin stability and power are going to be a little bit lower with the Axis 98 compared to the Aero 100, but on the bright side you get better comfort, which is critical, and even a little bit more control. The string pattern is a little bit denser in the sweet spot with this frame, so you get better directional control and a slightly lower launch angle, which should help you swing out a little bit more if you had control issues with the Aero. The foam filling and lower flex on the Axis is also going to increase the dwell time and ball pocketing on the string bed, while still delivering a slightly more solid feel than you get with the Aero. The other bonus with the Axis is I think it might swing just a little bit faster and play a little bit more maneuverably than an Aero. If you ever felt like the Aero 98 felt clunky, harsh, or launchy, the Axis 100 alleviates all of those issues. But if this racket has one weakness, I would say it's that the feel can be a little bit muted and disconnected. So where do you go if you want something a little bit crisper? Well, I would be looking at Prince, the ATS Tour 98. This is a racket I'll admit that I slept on for a little bit too long, but I absolutely love this frame because it's whippy and spin friendly, but it combines the great feel we love from box beam frames. This racket offers a solid feel with great ball pocketing without succumbing to the common pitfalls that we see in modern frames, like excessive use of dampening tech or overly noodly hoops. This racket is crisp enough to deliver what I would call adequate power and great spin without being too harsh or hollow feeling. If you like these classic box beam frames like old Pro Staffs or V-Cores, but you want something a little bit more modern in its packaging, the ATS Tour would honestly be my first stop. Now that said, there is one primary downside with this ATS Tour, and you can see that I've actually added weight at 3 and 9 on this racket, which I pretty much never do. And that's because this racket doesn't have great torsional stability. And while I do think that most all-court players should be prioritizing maneuverability over stability, which is what you would be doing by choosing the Prince, I do think it's possible to have your cake and eat it too. And so that's why the last mainstream racket on this list is going to be the 305S. I do have some honorable mentions towards the end, but this thing can just do everything. There's a reason that it's one of the best sellers of the year. It's one of my most popular videos of this year so far. There's one small downside, and that's that spin won't come quite as easily with the T-Fight compared to most of the other rackets on this list, but you are rewarded with class-leading stability, the best directional control of any racket on this list so far, while still being maneuverable enough to easily accelerate and reach high swing speeds with. The feel is firmer and a little bit crisper than most rackets, but it's still quite solid because, again, we've got a foam-filled frame here. The combination of stability and control means that you can really trust the racket. You can rip any shot you want, play any shot at any given time, opening up a lot of potential for creativity on court. The T-Fight, as much as any other racket on the market, begs you to play aggressive tennis. It encourages and rewards for you to hold tight on that baseline, take balls early, press your opponent, take their time away, and when they eventually cough up a short one, which they will, you can have all the confidence you need to punish that with a cute little drop shot or just pounding it up the line. So like I said, honorable mentions. I've got 2 of them in this case, and the reason they're honorable mentions is because I don't think there's a huge use case for using a racket below 98 square inches in the modern game. But if you really love that headlight feel that you get from a smaller head size, that kind of like string, that awareness of the smaller head size, if you haven't tried a small head size racket, one of the great things about it is you can really feel like where you hit the ball on the strings. So if you love that stuff, I would look at either this, the V-Core 95, or the Pro Staff 97. Between the two, the Pro Staff 97 is a little bit heavier, not just in static weight, but also in swing weight, so it's a little bit more stable. You can also hit a heavier ball with it. It's crisper in feel, and generally I prefer the 97 to something like the RF01 Pro because Like I said, I think you can hit a heavier ball with it, but also the feel to me is just better. It's more pure, it's a little bit crisper, it's cleaner feeling to me, whereas the RF01 Pro, while I do generally like foam filling, it can feel a little bit disconnected considering it should be like a feel-oriented frame. But that said, if you want something a little bit softer, a little bit easier to swing, I absolutely love the VCore 95. It's a racket that always brings a smile to my face whenever I bring it out on court. It offers huge creativity to my game. It's a great, super fun choice if you're the kind of player who likes to kind of outmaneuver your opponent with angles and cunning opposed to power and aggression. Now, last up, I want to give you some stringing guidelines for all of these frames. My general positioning on stringing, I'll just tell you what my philosophy is here, like what I would do for these frames. So when I'm using a more powerful 100 square inch racket, depending on the weather, I'm between 51 and 54 pounds, depending on the string pattern as well. For the 98s, I'll be between 48 and 51 pounds. And then for these smaller head sizes like the 97 or the 95, I'm looking around 45 pounds generally. Now, when it comes to string selection, I'm pretty much always choosing polys, though I think if you're an all-court player, you have a huge reason to go for natural gut because the feel is going to be better, and you're also going to get a lot of forgiveness, which can kind of counteract the lack of stability that some of these frames have. But anyway, for polys, if I'm looking for more power and more spin, I'll use Otoro Green with restring sync in the crosses. If I need just consistency and control, then I'm looking for Grapplesnake Tour M8, usually in the 1.25 gauge, but if it's a really open pattern, I'll go up to 130. If I need control and spin, and I want a more solid feel, then it's Slinko Confidential. If I want something a little bit crisper and spin friendly, I'll go for Otoro Tour with restring sync again. If I'm just looking for pure feel, better ball pocketing, a crisper, more connected sensation, that's when I reach for Grapplesnake Tour Sniper, pretty much always in the 1.25 gauge. Now, if any of these rackets seem like they'd be the right fit for you, I've got affiliate links to Tennis Warehouse, Tennis Warehouse Europe, and Tennis Only Australia, and then all the strings that I love as well. You can also get strings add to your cart on Tennis Warehouse. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know what your favorite rackets for all court play style are in the comments below, and we'll see you in the next one. How about that for a full outro?